Hello and welcome to the 2020 rental presentation for Shadow Ridge Resort Hotel and Conference Center. Everybody knows that 2020 has been pretty tough, but we're optimistic about travel in the upcoming ski season, and we're going to go over some revenue updates, look at some travel trends in the market, and talk about our winter strategy. Let's get started. I'm Kelly Kowalski, Vice President of Marketing at All Seasons Resort Lodging, and I have worked for the company since 2008. I'm really excited to have you with us today.
And I am Chad Christensen. I am the Director of Revenue for All Seasons Resort Lodging. I have been with the company since 2010, and I look forward to working with you all. So let's go over what has happened in the past year. First, let me explain this graph so you know what you're looking at. This graph is showing occupancy. Blue is going to be your paid occupancy. Gray is your owner stays, and black is out of order. So January and February are looking great. Park City as a whole had a record-breaking occupancy at 74% for February. Getting into March, we all know what happened. Coronavirus, which led to resort closures, which led to canceled vacation plans. Shortly after that, a stay-at-home order is put in place, which forces us to put all our rooms out of order, which is what you're seeing in late March and April. The next out of order you're seeing is spring deep cleans. Getting into June going forward, you can see we are slowly receiving more and more demand. As the city saw this happening, there was concern of too much activity in the city, so all events were canceled. It's going to be your Triple Crown, lacrosse, arts festival, and even a big group, math group, canceled. Normally you would see events and groups pushing weekday demand, but with those gone, we were only seeing weekend pickup. What you're seeing here in mid-August through September are some out of orders that were put in place due to a construction project. One unexpected impact of the coronavirus closures earlier in the year was the weekend demand later in the season. Normally we would see that weekend demand drop off after Labor Day, but we continued to see strong demand later in the season. I think people were feeling a bit pent up and willing to travel later in the year. This next graph is showing our booking lead time or booking window. This is showing how far in advance a guest is booking their stay. Black bars are going to indicate last year and blue bars are going to be this year. You can see in general we have seen consumers book much closer to their arrival date, especially in September and October. We do foresee the shorter booking window trend to continue into next winter, but we will dive more into that later in this presentation when we start looking into pace for the coming winter. And this next chart is showing gross revenue year over year. All Seasons Resort Lodging came onto the scene around 2014. You can see those first 2 years, revenue was greatly increased. 2016 to 2019, revenue continued to increase, only at a slower pace. Over those years, we have seen some owners decide to move away from All Seasons Resort Lodging, whether that means using VRBO and trying to manage their units on their own, or going with another rental company. So in that time frame, we have lost units but continued to increase revenue, which means more income for owners who have stuck around. And let me tell you, we appreciate you sticking around.
All right, thanks, Chad. Well, let's quickly look at some trends that we're keeping an eye on and talk about how that might shape the rest of the winter. There are some international travel restrictions right now. And of course, that could change by the time that it's really relevant for us for winter bookings. But typically, we do see a lot of travelers coming in from the European areas as well as Brazil. If we do start to see those restrictions lift, that will just be a prompt for us to adjust our marketing strategies further. Another change we do need to talk about that's a little closer to home are the changes to the Sundance Film Festival. For the 2021 festival, it has already been reduced from 10 to 5 days and is going to be spread out over at least 20 other cinemas across the world. So that's going to be a huge change to the footprint that festival typically leaves on Park City. We're used to having travelers from all over the world stay with us. Shadow Ridge, in particular, is typically the host for all of the volunteer lodging. The Sundance Institute in the past has reserved almost all of our rooms for the full festival for those volunteers. Unfortunately, this year there are no volunteers that will require lodging, so that's going to be a huge difference for us. But we have ways to work around that, and we're going to make the best of that situation. Okay, this next slide looks a little more broad at the traveling population. A group called Destination Analysts asked this group of travelers when they expected their next road trip to be. This was conducted in mid-September on the 18th. And what we're seeing here is that there is some pent-up demand, lingering summer vacations. You know, we're seeing that last-minute travel booking on weekends like Chad spoke about earlier with our short-term booking window. And then we're seeing that fall off a little bit, and then May through December of 2021, more people interested in taking those road trips. Here, second question is when these travelers would expect to take their next commercial airline vacation. We really don't see that start to spike and recover until May through December of 2021. And just like we will with the international travel trends, we'll keep an eye on this one and adjust our strategies accordingly. Up next, we have a few slides here there's a lot going on, so we're just going to walk through each one and talk about what it really means altogether. So this group, the Destination Analysts group from the previous slide, asked that same group of travelers on July 5th when they thought their next vacation would be. What we're seeing is, that comfort level returning for stays in December, February, but then there is a group that's not comfortable until some other date. So that's about 15% that were unsure at the time of this survey. When this group was surveyed again 49 days later, that would be August 23rd, you can see a definite shift in the comfort level of when people are interested in traveling again. So that other category dropped from 15 to 7%, and we're seeing a spike in January of 2021, which is a great trend to see. But what we're most excited about is looking at this next group. Now, this group was surveyed by another marketing research firm. They're called RRC, and this firm looks specifically at the mountain traveler. So that's your skiers, your snowboarders, your more adventure travel folks. So what we're seeing here is that group is interested in traveling really now, but spiking in January, February, and March. So that is very exciting for us to see, and we hope that we're able to pick up those skiers in Park City. Speaking of skiers in Park City, there are some pretty big changes that Chad alluded to earlier with regard to the way that people will be able to purchase lift tickets that will, without a doubt, influence the way people book travel. Advanced reservations are required at Park City Mountain Resort. Pass holders get priority. They can choose 7 days for the entire season that are locked in and that are theirs. And the advantage they have there is that they have a window between November 6th and December 8th to choose those days. Once that window is passed, normal non-pass holders are able to start booking and purchasing lift tickets for the ski season. So what that means for us is that we're going to have to pay attention to those dates very carefully and time our marketing messages to align with that. It's not realistic for us to expect someone to book a ski vacation now when they don't know that they can actually secure that day. So we know things are going to be different this year, and that's okay. We'll just have to change our timing a little bit. Deer Valley, there's nothing hugely different happening this year. Really, the only difference is that they're not allowing walk-up single-day ticket purchases, but they've always limited on mountain capacity, and they will continue to do that. It might just be a little bit more extreme than in past years. but it's nothing that we can't overcome.
Thanks, Kelly. Now let's take a look at pace for the coming winter season. As you can see, we have 3 graphs here showing room nights, ADR, and RevPAR, which is revenue per available room unit. RevPAR is a good metric that takes both occupancy and ADR into account and boils it down to one number that gives us a good idea of our performance. So, for example, you can see October occupancy is a bit down, but ADR is slightly up, and that ended with us having a slightly better RevPAR year over year. In an ideal world, we always achieve a higher RevPAR with higher ADR, because that would lead to less wear and tear on your units and less costs incurred. As you have probably already noticed by looking at the room nights graph, things do not look so great in January. Like Kelly mentioned earlier, Sundance Institute will not be coming to the market this year. In a normal year, we would already have that group in place, and this year they just aren't coming. We fully expect to see reservations come to the property, they just are going to come at a later date. Another concern you may have noticed when looking at this is the ADR. We are down in ADR over most months. Kelly mentioned that December 8th date, when people are able to start booking their lift tickets, this is a major factor in shortening that booking window. With a shorter booking window, we are seeing many properties in town getting worried and dropping their rates. To a degree, we need to follow suit, which is resulting in a lower ADR. So this is where my job gets interesting and I have decisions to make. As you can see here, we have some rate shops. These are all for early January. These were taken from VRBO, and it's a straight comparison. Shadow Ridge units to Shadow Ridge units. You can see these property managers have their listings down to 465, 600, 339. So people are getting really aggressive because they're not seeing that demand where we would normally see them. Right now, we have our rates at what I would consider a very aggressive rate at 719. Obviously, this isn't competitive to the market, but this is competitive over a year-to-year basis. My strategy here is to be patient, continue to hold rates. I would like to see these other properties fill up right now, and then once that December 8th date comes around, when people are able to book their lift tickets, we're going to see a spike in demand, and we're going to be able to book rooms at a higher rate. That's not to say I'm holding these rates at 719 definitely until that December 8th date. This is a continued day-to-day. I'm looking at rates all the time, making adjustments up and down. With the technology we have, we're able to make those adjustments quickly and efficiently across all channels. So we don't hesitate to do that whatsoever. So looking at this next slide, we have market occupancy comparison. So this is a Shadow Ridge year over year, whether we're up or down, and then the market year over year, whether we're up and down. In general, we are beating the market. So in November, Shadow Ridge itself is up 2%. The market is down 3%. December, we are about flat at Shadow Ridge. The market's down 6%. Once we get into January, things aren't looking so great. The biggest factor here is the Sundance Institute. Normally we would have that on the books at this time. So we had all that occupancy to lose. The market never had that in place at their hotels, so they didn't have that to lose. In the long run, we definitely plan to make back that occupancy. It's just going to come in at a later date. Getting back to the good news, February is up 7% at Shadow Ridge. The market's way down 15%. March, we're only down 1%, and the market's down 7%. So when you're looking at Shadow Ridge compared to the market, in general, we're doing great. And now I'm going to send you back to Kelly for a marketing update.
Okay, thanks, Chad. All right, let's talk marketing. First, we're going to take a quick look at how our web sessions were trending year over year. As many of you know, we did launch a brand new website in April of last year. So year over year, first part of the year, everything was great. We were seeing 17% growth in sessions, and a session is simply just a visit to our website. Specifically, we're looking at sessions that included page views of the Shadow Ridge property. In that same period, we were up 34% in bookings. Those two metrics together resulted in a 15% increase in our e-commerce conversion rate. E-commerce conversion rate simply is just a session that results in a transaction. So we were looking at a 2.7% e-commerce rate. The industry is actually under 1%, so I am really happy with where we were. I'm still happy with where we are, but things definitely changed in March. We did see a decrease in the sessions that came into our website, and that's to be expected. Interest in travel across the board sort of dipped there for a little while. Number of bookings explainably decreased. However, we still saw some growth in our e-commerce conversion rate. So what that tells me is that while we're not bringing as many people to the website, we did bring more qualified people to the website. We're giving the people what they want on the site. They have the information they need to book. And really, I'm very happy with where we are with our conversion rate at 3.24%, and hoping to see that trend continue into the winter. All right, let's look at winter strategy here. So the two important dates for us are November 6th and December 8th. Those are the kind of the critical points for us to switch our messaging from the dreaming and planning phase to the urgency to book, since those ski priority days are going to open up for pass holders on the 6th and general ticket sales on the 8th. Equally as important is going to be our targeting. This year we know that repeat guests are going to be the key for us. The two groups that we talked about earlier, the U.S. population and the skiers that were surveyed, both the majority plan on visiting a destination that they've already visited before. Fortunately for us, we have a great toolkit. We have our email database, we have social media, and we have Google Ads. The three of those together give us the ability to micro-target and speak to the right audience at the right time. And something we learned very early on in March is that people want to know how we're keeping them safe. This is something that's going to be prominent in our advertising and all of our communications throughout the rest of the winter. We'll talk about our cleaning strategies, making sure our website's up to date regarding the state and county health guidelines, and we bring that full circle by ensuring that when a guest checks in with us into their room, they know that that room has been scrubbed top to bottom, has been disinfected and inspected by one of our housekeeping managers to ensure the safety. Okay, we're in the home stretch now, so let's talk about the new and exciting stuff that's coming. This is a kiosk that we have installed at the Silver King Hotel right next door. We've had this bad boy up and running for probably 2 months now, and this is how our guests are able to check in on their own. So this is something we're going to put in place at Shadow Ridge here before the ski season opens up. Guest shows up, puts in their information, out pops an envelope with a room key and any other information that they might need for their stay. Long term, what we expect and what we are seeing in the marketplace is direct to door check-in. That means Chad gets off the airplane, gets a text with a room code, and he can just walk straight into his room. We will, of course, continue to staff the desk and be available for guests, but more and more people are wanting to avoid that face-to-face interaction. And last but not least, in-room guides and papers, binders, gone. We're moving digital. So we're using QR codes and links in our confirmation emails to get people access to our brand new online compendiums, which will give guests a really great idea before they arrive, everything from where to park, what the Wi-Fi password is, and anything extra to expect, like front desk hours being changed due to COVID. Hopefully that doesn't last too long, but we're really excited, and if you scan that QR code, you're getting a sneak peek right now.
Speaking of QR codes, if you haven't tried one before, now is your chance. Use this QR code to get to a survey where you'll be able to voice your questions or comments. And that will conclude our presentation. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations if you made it to the end. Also, it is worth mentioning when Kelly and I originally made this presentation, we had twice as many slides, and our test audience, aka Alan Finnegan, yeah, that guy, he fell asleep midway through. So believe it or not, we did shorten this presentation and tried to present only the most pertinent information. I only mention this to let you know we are looking at the market inside, outside, sideways, and upside down. We could have made this slideshow an hour long and not run out of information to provide you. But this is why we are here, to dive into the nitty-gritty details that you may not want to. So again, thank you for joining us for this presentation, and we look forward to continue working with and for you to provide the best property management option out there.